which is all that very bad. Hello, everyone, and especially my 4 subscribers. Today we are continuing with Depression Quest. If you remember from last time, we are a male, 20-something. We have a girlfriend. We are experiencing a lot of motivation issues, high levels of social anxiety. We have parents that have really high expectations of us, and consequently a very, very successful brother. I don't know if that's quite consequently or just something that adds to that. But yes, that's about as far as we got last episode, learning about the character. Today's episode is going to deal somewhat with triggers, is the best way that I can put it. We learn a little bit about what can worsen the state that our character is in. We are given options that kind of make it better or worse, but from the portion that I've selected today, it's basically things that you want to be aware of moving on in the game. Just how the initial interactions with each of these characters starts to progress. So yes, once again, this game did come with a disclaimer that if things like this trigger you, especially things like seeing triggers, feel free to just kind of skip over this, either this video or this series. But yeah, if you missed the last episode, then I'm going to put it up over here, I think. Wait, camera. Yeah, I'm going to put the first video up over here. But yeah, here's part 2. It's an unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. You've spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so, you found your job motivation flagging more than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day today, simply going through the motions without realizing even what you've been doing half the time. And yet, time seems to be moving at half speed. You're so checked out that when your boss approaches you to tell you that it's dead and you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss from the recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in class until late, another couple hours, at least. You briefly consider using this serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project that you've been working on. What's the project? A while back, you and some of your old friends were out at a bar catching up. After liquefying considerably more of your paycheck than was perhaps responsible, and ending up thoroughly in your cups, you opened up to the only people you really consider yourself close to, and end up launching into a drunken tirade about the meaninglessness of your utterly menial job, and ultimately your own existence. Having never really seen you in such a state before, your friends were briefly taken aback by your sudden, uncharacteristic outburst. One of your friends suggests that you get involved with your hobby on a more regular basis, long-term basis, suggesting that spending your energy on something you actually care about might help you to better cope with the shittiness of your 9 to 5. Although you were embarrassed that you let your guard down and have felt self-conscious at seeming to have single-handedly brought the mood down at the table, you convinced yourself on the cab ride home that maybe it would be worth trying out. That's so hard, to feel like you're the person that brings down the entire mood. And that just comes from, for a lot of people, that just comes from being vulnerable. Which, even if your vulnerability comes in a time like this where you are inebriated, accept that that's the moment of vulnerability and just run with it. Oftentimes we look back and become embarrassed by it, but we don't need to be. You begin your project some months ago and have miraculously managed to keep at it, though your level of motivation and subsequent effort rises and falls considerably. While you were surprised when you started at how good it felt to actually work on something you're passionate about, lately you found it hard to muster the energy to really care about even this. Alright, haphazardly for the past few months. As soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you can feel the panic creeping in from the back of your brain unbidden. All you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are, and the amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. At the time you arrive home, you change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, and stress is weighing down on you like a heavy, wet wool blanket. Your computer seems to be excuse me. Your computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything, you feel suddenly and absolutely exhausted and feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Do you order some food, grab a drink, and hunker down for a night of work? That's not happening. Reluctantly sit down at your desk and try and make yourself do something. Turn on the TV, telling yourself you just need a quick half hour to unwind from work. Crawl into bed. Crawling into bed is not good. I know if I sit down for a half hour, I have days where I tell myself I just need to decompress, and I end up, it's hours later, and then I end up having to call the day a wash. Reluctantly sit down at your desk and try to make yourself do something. I think we're going to go with that one, because even if we get nothing done, then at the end of the day, we can say that we tried. Even if we just open up our computer, read or look at what we've done before, then at least we walk away saying we've tried and we've done something. You make a stop at the fridge, turn your favorite playlist on, and sit down to start working. You open the last file you were working on, and as soon as your hands touch the keyboard, your mind goes blank. All of the motivation and ideas you had when you arrived at home vanished in a flash. Your brain seizes up, and you find yourself physically incapable of any sort of productive thought. You take a break to loosen up, popping into email, Twitter, and various other internet-based distractions. Frustratingly, this pattern continues throughout the course of the evening. As soon as you try and focus on work, your brain diverts all its energy from the task at hand while you keep flipping back to your work. You find the sheer mental effort involved in keeping your brain focused is overwhelming and tiring. A few Twitter arguments, YouTube videos, and sparse amounts of actual work later, your playlist flips back to track 1, and the ice in your glass has all but melted, diluting the last dregs of the Coke you were nursing. You look at the clock and realize that a few hours have passed since you sat down to work, and you've made negligible progress. But you still made progress. That's still at least something. Better than if you had just sat on the couch and, then loathed yourself for being unhappy and not getting anything done. I can just wake up early tomorrow and catch up, you think to yourself as you climb into bed, even though you know that will never happen. But at least the thought is there. You know that you can try. You can keep going. It's a mild Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of her classes telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex, and you get along well enough but aren't particularly close. You don't have work in the morning and have nothing else in particular to do tonight. You're feeling kind of run down, but you've been fatigued most of the time lately. You mention that you're feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain those feelings to someone else, and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a second of silence over the phone, but you can swear you can hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestively worded hints that you can stay over with them tonight after the party. What do? Shake off your funk and have a good time with your girlfriend? Yeah, no. Agree to go. Say that you're really just not feeling well and can't make it. I feel like being around a bunch of people probably isn't actually a good idea. And it's a shame that it has to be framed as not feeling well, because that is very real, that people suffering with depression don't know exactly how to describe what they're feeling other than sick, ill, not well, which is all that very, which is all very valid and true. Um, but there's just a little bit of a deeper level to it. I digress, though. That being said, I think we're gonna decline. Despite your partner's pleas, you tell Alex you're unable to make it to the party tonight. You say you feel too ill and would just be a drag on everyone. She sighs a sigh that you've heard many times before, one of exasperation, but patience. Well, okay then. I just hope you feel better soon. I really miss you. I guess I'll see you next week or something. You apologize profusely and tell Alex that you love and miss her too and promise to make plans for next week. She sounds somewhat distracted and distant as she agrees, says her goodnights, and hangs up. You spend the rest of the night beating yourself up for feeling too lousy to go. Oh no. Self-loathing from your own decision-making. You leave a few apologetic and loving texts to your partner, and you feel stressed out and forgotten when you don't receive a reply. You're very depressed, you spend a large amount of time sleeping, hating yourself, and have very little energy or motivation. You're not currently seeing a therapist, you're not currently taking medications for depression. Let's move on. It's late afternoon on a muggy Saturday. Your mother has come over for a surprise visit, claiming loudly that she doesn't see you enough, so she's decided to invite herself over. Ugh, parents, please don't do that. As you can converse, she walks around your place, as you get the distinct impression that you're being inspected, judged. So what's going on with you lately? She asks abruptly. Taken somewhat aback by this left fielder, you tell her you're not sure what she means. She repeats the question and says that you haven't seemed like yourself lately. She gestures to the dirty dishes piled in the sink and notes the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. Your reticence only seems to spur her on more. She presses you, asking if you're having problems at work or with Alex, and you're beginning to feel increasingly berated by her sudden, well-meaning but overwhelming inquisition. Under her questions, you become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you've been feeling, but the truth is you're not really sure yourself. This is what we were saying before. Nothing horrific has happened at work, or with your significant other, or friends, or anything like that. But all the same, you can't deny that lately you've just felt drained, as though you're not really here. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she hasn't been approachable with negative emotions in the past. She's the kind of person that holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude, a stance that's reared its head in past conversation when we've begun to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you when you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out everything you're feeling. What do? Let her know how you've been feeling lately? Not gonna happen. Try to be honest with her anyway? Nope. Tell her that everything's fine and thank her for asking, or change the subject. See, if we change the subject, then that could be a red flag for her, and she could be the one that kind of prompts us to seek help. But lying to her, telling her everything's fine, and then thanking her for, being kind of nosy, would make her feel better. And it also opens up in the future the chance that, she'll continue to ask. And even though it's annoying, at some point it might build up so much that I just need to come out with it. I need to tell her why I don't like her asking me those questions, why I don't feel good, why I don't like when she does things like this, which could just turn into like an amalgamation of things. And I'm future tripping right now because I'm thinking about like possible ways this can go with the game. I think I'm gonna just change the subject, yeah. Are you okay? It's a question you've been finding yourself being asked a lot lately, and it's one that has begun to make you instantly uncomfortable. It's one you would have to spill your guts to adequately describe. which would be an almost impossible feat to perform at the moment. Even if you managed to, you'd have to fight through your self-loathing long enough to keep talking, despite feeling like everything you say amounts to simple belly aching. If somehow you power through that as well, you'd have to live with feeling truly exposed, and you figure anyone who would know all of these things would be completely off-put by it permanently. More importantly, despite your mother's best intentions, she is quite likely the worst possible person to try and wade through all this bullshit with. You evade the question by pretending you receive a text message. Once you pretend as though you've finished reading it, you change the subject back to one you know your mother is interested in. She takes the bait, and the topic is successfully changed. A feel of unease lingers, and your stress levels stay high until she leaves a bit later. You wonder if you should talk to someone about this, someone who'd be more sympathetic and not tell you to simply think positive. You're deeply depressed. Yeah. Interactions with our mother are not seeming to help us. And it's really unfortunate when parents have this effect on their kids that even though they have good intentions, they don't know how to go about it properly and end up making their kids kind of just feel worse. Not that the mom is specifically doing anything wrong, but she's very helicopter parent-esque and is very hard to open up to, especially because she is one of those just think positive person. Which, granted, I subscribe to a lot. I want to maintain a positive attitude even in the face of adversity, but I know that there are situations where you need to seek support and help and find other ways around it. But yeah. Alright guys, that is where I'm going to end the video for today. This was, like I said, just a look into what triggers you need to be aware of moving forward in the game. The big takeaways, we already knew that the job was an issue and is something that our character is struggling with. This new project is something that we want to be aware of because for a lot of people having these sorts of outlets, it's very, very important. Even if you don't have depression, just having a way of collecting your thoughts, your feelings, everything, and then being able to creatively put it back out into the world. It's going to be a key thing that progresses in the storyline. And then the relationship with Alex is a little intricate because Alex does seem like she's very patient. She's very much willing to work with us as far as our emotional and mental state. Even if she doesn't know exactly what's going on, she tries to be caring and understanding. But there's a double-edged sword with that, where every time she's caring and understanding, it does make our character feel a little bit worse, that it seems like a one-sided relationship. The relationship with the mother, we already kind of got into that with the video. It's very difficult. Parents do sometimes make it hard for their children to feel comfortable and safe talking about harder subjects in life with growing up, especially when it comes to mental states, because you don't want to feel like you're blaming your parent or you don't want your parent to feel like a failure, especially if you sometimes receive that sort of projection from them, which we've seen our character does kind of feel, especially in comparison to his brother. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end this. I have started editing the next episode, and that one is going to be a bit longer. It's going to be a little bit more intricate. We're going to get into things like pets and progressive, actions in our relationships and friends and all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, if you didn't see the other video, I'm going to put it up here, I think. Yeah, so go watch that, watch this, watch the next one. If you like it, think it's interesting, then like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm also going to put a card for a less serious game in the same area. Hey, I actually got it right that time. Just in case this wasn't quite your bag of tea, and, that's totally fine if it's not. Then watch something of mine that's a little a little less serious and a little more fun. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!